Hi guys! So, I am back to film a video that I've had a lot of requests to do recently. Oh, this is weird. I have my laptop open, so I'm like seeing myself double. If you guys saw some of my older posts from last week, I believe, I mentioned that I had found an awesome technique for tangible action steps to help shift your mindset, a bit of a mindfulness practice, and using essential oils to help heal negative emotions. I had actually filmed this video in my closed oil education group with all my ladies in there, and I realized that because it's a closed group, I wasn't able to share that outside of the group. So I actually had a ton of people who commented on my post and were messaging me saying that they really wanted to see that and kind of know what this technique was to use it for themselves. And, you know, not everybody wants to be added to the group just to see that video, so I decided to just refilm that here for everyone that is not in my my closed essential oil education group. So, if you are in the group, some of this, most of this information is actually going to be very similar. However, I kind of outlined some notes because, again, this is really like step-by-step action steps and a little bit of kind of the science behind essential oils. I just did a video on the frequency of essential oils, so if you want to know more in depth about how essential oils raise your vibration and how that all works, the sciencey part, you can go watch that video. But this is going to be running through how you can use essential oils to shift your mindset, raise your vibration, and help you heal and release negative emotions. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. I'm not a doctor. Obviously, I have no experience in mental health. None of that kind of stuff, right? I'm just an essential oil user and I'm just like a researcher. That's all I am. So obviously, please don't take any of this advice as medical advice. I cannot treat you or diagnose you or cure you or any of this stuff. This is simply a tool for you to use if you are feeling like you're experiencing low vibrations or negative emotions, situations in your life that you want to get out of. But I know from experience that it's extremely hard to shift your mindset and get out of that place when you're in it, right? I know that I've seen so many people ask, I know all the tools to do, I know that I want to be feeling good and feeling in a more positive, high vibrational space, but when I'm in a bad mood, when I'm in those low emotional places, it is so hard to get out of that. Like, and I know for me that when I'm in that, even though I know all the things that I could be doing and I know how I want to feel, I'm kind of still stuck there. And it's very, very hard to switch your mindset. And for me, I kind of just have to leave it alone and hope that I eventually kind of get out of that space on my own. So that's why I really like that this kind of tangible action steps to help you incorporate all these different pieces and incorporate essential oils to help you transition out of that and hopefully release negative emotions. Now, again, another disclaimer, this is not like a quick fix. This isn't going to be something that you do once and all of a sudden you're never going to experience these negative emotions again. This is something similar to all sorts of mindset and intention practices that you need to dedicate some time to, and you need to put your focus on if you want this to work. So, I'm going to give a really quick rundown of how essential oils affect our emotions. Again, if you saw my last video, we talked about essential oils that are on the mid to high range frequency do make emotional and spiritual changes to the body. So those are the things that are going to affect our moods, affect our mindset, and our emotions. So essential oils, when you are using them aromatically, when you're diffusing them, when you're smelling them, how they work is very, very simply explained. The molecules will actually pass through the blood-brain barrier, which is, again, why you really want to make sure that your oils are pure and not diluted and have who knows what in them, because they are going to enter your bloodstream, as weird as that sounds. They do enter the olfactory bulb in your brain, which is connected to the limbic system. And it basically fires off all these electrical impulses to the body. As well as, that's where a lot of the emotion, some of the big emotions stem from. I don't want to say they're stored there, but that's where they stem from, such as the fight or flight response, anxiety, fear, depression, joy, and anger, all stem from the olfactory bulb in this center of the brain. So that's kind of a little bit of how smelling an essential oil can help you kind of shift your emotions, shift your mindset. So let's see what else I got. So essentially what this technique is going to do, again, a lot of this is a mindfulness practice. Because in order for this to work, you have to really be in tune and really be aware of yourself and your emotions, because you need to identify when you're in a place that you want to release, right? And I'm trying to think of an example because it's a lot easier to explain this with an example. So let's say I have issues with anger. So, and maybe that's something that I've been working on and that's something that I want to release and something that, I experience, but I don't necessarily know how to transition myself out of that when I'm in that space. So what this technique is going to do is you need to be able to identify in yourself when you're feeling that and when you're experiencing that, because that is when you're going to bring the essential oils in and use this practice to help release that. So again, mindfulness. And it's good because this is, if you're not used to being mindful and you're not used to being very reflective of yourself, this is going to help you kind of get in the mode of doing that and identifying your feelings, which is huge. So, let's see. Yeah, so what we're doing is we're releasing the emotions that we don't want, and we're also using a secondary oil to help us get into a space that we do want to feel. Because obviously it's not just about releasing the negative emotions, it's also about making it to where we're more often in a space of feeling how we do want to feel, right? Because that's the whole point. So, the actual action steps to this. For this technique to work, you need to pick 2 essential oils. And there are a few contingencies to this, few rules to this. You're going to pick 2 oils. One of your oils is going to be your release oil. So you're going to pick an oil that you want to use to help you release your negative emotions, that you will use when you're experiencing the negative emotions. The second oil is going to be your happy oil, your uplifting oil, whatever you want to call that. And that oil is going to be used to help establish that connection with how you want to feel. When you are in a positive space, that's the oil that we're going to use during that time. So you need 2 oils, a release oil and a happy, positive oil, whatever you want to call that. And the few rules to this are, you do want to pick an oil that is a high vibrational frequency. Again, the higher vibrational frequency oils are the ones that are going to have the most impact on your emotions, your mood, and also your spirituality. It does affect the emotional and the spiritual body. Secondly, as I mentioned before, you need to make sure that your oils are pure. Again, the oils are going to pass through your blood-brain barrier. You're going to be inhaling them. Essential oils can be found in your bloodstream within 22 seconds of making contact with your skin or inhaling them. So again, you want to make sure that they're pure. If you want to know what brand I use, you can definitely shoot me a message or let me know. Hi, Emily! But just make sure that you're comfortable with the oil brand that you're using. Please do not buy oils off Amazon or eBay or Walmart. Just don't do it. Like, no bueno. I can do a whole video on why. Just please don't do it. So that out of the way. The last thing is you want to make sure that these oils are not being used for anything else. So for this, I personally like to use like specialty blends, whether that be a blend that you're making yourself or a pre-made blend from a company. And again, I can give you guys the suggestions of the ones that I'm personally going to use. That is a high frequency blend oil. But the reason you want to make sure that they're not used for anything else is because we're using these oils to really establish releasing negative emotion and also making a connection in the brain between the oil that we're using and how we want to feel. And kind of as a fun little example, obviously, we've all kind of had those experiences where a certain scent will trigger a very strong emotional response or even a memory for us. So for example, I know that there's a lot of people who have a special perfume that they wore on their wedding day or on another really special event day. And if they didn't use that perfume for anything else, maybe years down the road when they smell that perfume, it's going to immediately bring back those very strong memories and associations with that event. However, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if we think about coffee, how often do you smell coffee throughout the day? Your brain will try to recall the circumstances and the events and the emotions that came up when you experienced that scent. However, for something like coffee that we experience all the time, it's not really going to recall something as strongly because you're always smelling coffee from yesterday and last week and maybe a month ago, and that connection isn't as strong. So what we're wanting to do is make a very strong connection, and that's why it's best to use essential oils that you're not also using for cleaning or putting in your diffuser during the day, or using in the tub, or using like on your feet before you go to sleep. You want to make sure that these oils are really only used for when you're doing this practice. So when you have your release oil, again, you want to pick the 2 oils. with your release oil, this is kind of where a lot of the mindfulness work goes in. Because again, you need to be able to identify in yourself when you are experiencing the emotion or the feeling that you want to release. So again, the example, let's just say that I'm trying to release anger in myself whenever I get in a fight with my spouse, something like that. And again, this could really be anything. This could be something really big. This could be something minor that you're working through. It's completely up to you. When you are in that space, and again, like I mentioned, it's very hard to get out of that. You're usually in that negative mindset. You're in that space, and it feels like you're just stuck there. And there's really like no way for you to transition out besides just let yourself naturally hopefully forget about it and move on, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the essential oils. And I am a big advocate of using oils intuitively. So how you want to do that is you want to really take a second, depending on the emotion you're experiencing, if you're a little heated or whatever, you want to kind of find a minute to really like hone yourself in and just be present in what you're feeling. You're going to take your release oil, and I usually like to apply a drop in my hands and do kind of the, if you've used essential oils before, it's kind of like a little mini meditation where you apply a drop of oil in your hand. I usually like to rub it around just to kind of, get the scent flowing. And again, it's just a mindfulness practice. And then I will usually cup it over, I don't know if you can hear me when I do that, my nose and my mouth, and then just take a couple deep breaths, just like that. And again, that is going to be getting the oil molecules into your olfactory system. That is going to help with this. And then I also like to apply the essential oils topically for myself. I enjoy using essential oils topically, but I like to do it intuitively. So what that means is I want to apply the essential oil wherever it is in my body that I feel I'm holding that negative emotion. And if you aren't very intuitive with this, or if you haven't done this before, it might be a little weird, or you might not really catch on to it. But again, just be still in yourself, and you want to try and pinpoint where in your body you're holding that emotion. And that could be coupled with very physical, I don't want to say symptoms, but very physical signs to help you identify that. So for example, if you're holding that emotion in your solar plexus or in your sacral chakras or in your gut, you will probably feel that your gut is very closed off and very tense and very tight. You might have stomach aches if you're very sensitive, things like that. And that means that your oil, that emotion is being held in your body in that place. And that is where that I would apply the oil. And you do not need to go crazy with this. I usually will put a drop in my hand. If you have very, very sensitive skin, oh, sorry, somebody just sent me a message. If you have very, very sensitive skin, you can apply a carrier oil as well to dilute that with coconut oil, a fatty oil, just so you know how you react. But I will usually apply it on that area. Other common places is maybe if you're getting like head tension or stiff neck, or maybe it's in your throat chakra, or a lot of times I will apply oils over my heart space and over my throat, which, funny enough, before I actually go live, I will apply oils to my throat chakra because I'm getting more comfortable doing live videos, but that just kind of helps with the open communication aspect, if you know anything about the chakra system. So just take a moment to kind of identify where in your body you feel that you're holding this. If you can't identify that, just try and be really intuitive with it and listen to your body. How do you feel that you should best apply that? A lot of time for me, I put oils on the back of my neck. That's just where, I feel that they work the best. So figure out what that is for you. And that might change every time that you experience this. You might not always hold that emotion in the same place at that moment. So you want to identify when you're feeling this emotion that you want to release. You want to apply your oil intuitively, and then also make sure that you are inhaling it to get the aromatherapy benefits of this. And then the last piece is the intention for this part. The essential oils are awesome. I firmly believe that they do help raise our vibrations and, shift our emotions, but the intention is a very big piece of this. So when you're doing this practice, you want to set the intention. You don't necessarily have to say it out loud. Even just in your mind, you want to set the intention that you are releasing whatever it is that you're releasing. So for my example, if I get angry every time I, get in a fight with my spouse, I would take a moment, I would apply my oils, and as I'm sitting here doing my little mini meditation breathing, I would set the intention that I am releasing anger from my body. And that's it. And again, like I said, it's not necessarily going to be something that's going to be this huge transformational, you're going to be released from anger and you're never going to experience it again. This is something that you need to be consistent with. So every time that this emotion comes up for you, you want to do the same thing with this oil, okay? So that is the release part. The second end of the spectrum is using your happy oil. And what we are doing with that is we are basically making a connection between the oil and the feeling that we want to feel, or a memory, so that we can experience being in a more high vibrational state, or a state that we want to feel more often. Because again, this is something else that I see, is when people are in those states of I'm feeling really good, how can I prolong that? How can I get to that place more often? And we're also going to use our happy oil for this. And again, it comes back to being mindful. So you don't necessarily have to do this one after the other. A lot of times when we're in the negative place and we use our release oil, we're not necessarily going to immediately transition to a space of how we want to feel, right? Sometimes that may take a little while. You might not even notice if you're not very aware of, kind of keeping check on your emotions, because other things are going on. But, a couple times a day, especially when I'm doing like active meditation, I like to call it, when I'm zoning out doing the dishes, I'll kind of check in and see how I'm feeling. And if I find myself in a space that I want to feel, so maybe that's happy, or at ease, or being productive, or whatever that is that feels good to you, that you were like, I wish I could feel this all day long every day. This is how I wish my normal days felt like. That is when you want to use your happy oil. And again, you want to do a very similar process. You want to use your happy oil and apply it. Again, you can apply it intuitively to your body if you want to, or you can just inhale it. And set your intention that this is how I want to feel. And you can really identify whatever that emotion is for you. And really the feeling is the biggest part of this. And this is what I talk about a lot in manifestation. It's not so much saying, I want to be happy. It's how does that feel in your body? What does it feel like when you're happy? Are you tingling? Are you, do you have a lot of energy? Do you have a lot of mental clarity? Whatever that is, do you feel it in your gut? Does your gut feel very open and relaxed? Whatever that is for you, you want to focus on that feeling. And then again, setting the intention that this is how I want to feel as you're using that oil. And that also kind of helps you stay in that space just a little bit longer. It's not always easy to just say, oh my gosh, I'm in a great high vibrational space. I want to stay here all day long. We have so many outside influences that affect our vibration. But even just working every time that you are in this experience, just working even at, 30 seconds, a couple more minutes longer, just trying to maintain that space, maintain that feeling a little bit longer, it's going to make it a little bit easier for you to transition into it when you know how that feels in your body. And kind of the goal of this is at some point you should be able to ease your transition between your negative emotions that you're wanting to release into your space of however it is that you do want to feel during your day. And, you might get to a place where you can just smell that oil and it will help you. And again, it's not necessarily a magic pill. It's not like you smelling an oil is going to immediately, release you of all negative emotion and you're never going to experience that again and you're just going to go immediately to your happy place. But it will help you get there. It will help raise your vibration to that place, as well as incorporating the mindset piece of it and your intentions. So, let me know if you guys have any questions. I know that I did this video in my other group, and this is kind of a different concept for a lot of people. If you're not new or if you're not used to doing mindset work, really digging deep into the emotional parts or just the physical feelings of really identifying your emotions and identifying how that feels in your body. This can be kind of new for people. So again, it's okay if this is a process. It should be a process. This isn't something that you want to do once and then just, oh, that didn't work, and then just forget about it. You really do want to make this a practice. And then eventually it should help you transition from your negative emotions into your more high vibrational state or however it is that you want to feel more easily. And although I haven't necessarily looked into this or researched this too much, I had thought about the possibility of, using this combination with different emotions and different feelings of, do I need to have a different oil for the different things that I'm wanting to release? So let's say I'm wanting to release anger and I have one specific oil for that. Do I need another oil for releasing maybe anxiety and again, please know I'm not a mental health doctor, so if you have clinical anxiety, that's kind of a whole different spectrum. So yeah, just take that with a grain of salt. But do I need a different essential oil for a different emotion? And I'm not quite sure about that, to be completely honest. I don't necessarily think that you do, depending on, how many different things you're trying to release. I do think it is beneficial to only focus on maybe a small few things. You don't want to necessarily be all over the spectrum. I'm releasing this, I'm releasing that, I'm releasing that. I think it's better to be more targeted and more specific about the certain things that you're wanting to work on and really work through maybe one or two, maybe three of those big emotions first, right? And I think if you did feel drawn to use a different oil for different emotions, I think it would be a little bit easier to kind of, batch them and do them a little bit separately of, maybe this month or for the next, I don't even want to put a timeline on this because everybody's going to be so different in how long this process takes. Or again, there's not really an endpoint, I don't believe, to this process. But I would kind of focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 big emotions that you're wanting to release, and use the two oils that you're picking for this kind of at a time before you branch out and try a new blend. Because again, we're trying to really increase that connection between the essential oil and your intentions and your emotions and how you feel. That's really the big key of this, and you strengthen that every time that you do this. So it just makes more sense to have it a little more clear. But again, that's just kind of my assumption. I'm curious to see if other people have tried this, if you have done this with a bunch of different oils at the same time, what your experience was. So, yeah. Yes, Emily. So I'm really bad at making like roller balls. I've been using oils for, I don't know, a couple months now, but for me personally anyway, I'm able to use them mostly neat, at least the blends that are already pre-diluted down that can be used on the skin safely. I'm just so used to grabbing an oil and putting a drop in my hand, but like I blow through oils so fast. So I actually started doing that. And this is very recent that I just went and got a whole bunch of little, like, I think I have them. They're so cute. They're like little purple roller balls that I just got off of Amazon. And I just make them this way. I had actually made a blend for, what did it have? It had Joy, Bergamot, I think something else in there. And it was my Happy Roller, which is funny that I was already doing this process before I even like learned about what it was. Because I'm not gonna lie, like one of the big things that I'm personally trying to work on is being a grouch in the morning. I have a 1-year-old, I have a puppy. For me, it's very, very easy for me to go back to my really old mindsets and my old ways of thinking, where I used to be a very glass half empty person, a very pessimistic, like Debbie Downer kind of person. So it can be very easy for me to slip back into that mindset and that mentality of just kind of being a grouch and, stomping around the house and whatever, especially in the morning. Like the morning is such a big thing for me. And now with what feels like 2 kids, with a puppy in the house, it's kind of hard to wake up and have that nice morning that I want to really set the tone for the day. And a lot of times if I just like roll out of bed and I'm immediately like, I haven't had a sip of coffee, I haven't gotten to sit down and my house is just nuts, it'd be very easy for me to kind of like slip back and get really frustrated. And that's personally what I'm using this technique for, is to try and release that I experience. Just kind of like overwhelming, a little bit of anxiety, frustration. But it's funny that I had already actually made a rollerball. I called it my good morning oil. And that's what I used it for. So I'm excited to try this with, doing the mindfulness practice of it. But yeah, I just had these they're so cute. They're just little purple rollerballs that I got off Amazon. And I have like a whole little purse now that I keep in my deck bag that has, just all sorts of different blends. So I don't have to come in here. I used to do that all the time. I would get headaches or, whatever it was I was using oils for. And I'm like making a little concoction in my hand, and it's so much easier to just have like a pre-made thing that you whip it out, you already know what it is. You don't have to like mix and concoct and, oh crap, I forgot I'm out of this oil, because that happens a lot. So yeah, roller balls are awesome. So anyway, I think that's all I have as far as this. I'm trying to check my notes to see if I forgot anything. But let me know if this is something that you guys have already done. I know that I do have a lot of friends on here that do use essential oils. So I'm curious if you guys have already kind of done this, maybe intuitively, of using essential oils to help you heal emotional, I don't want to say emotional trauma, but just, shift out of your negative patterns and negative mindset. if you're curious about what specific oil blends I'm going to use, let me know. You can leave me a comment, you can message me, whatever you want to do. And if you want help picking out oils, definitely leave me a comment or shoot me a message. And because, again, there are so many different oils and there's so many different blends that are different vibrational frequencies that really work for so many different things. So depending on the specific emotion that you're trying to release or the feeling that you're hoping to achieve, we can kind of go through the list and figure out what would work good for you if you don't currently have essential oils that you can use for this. And again, I'm actually ordering 2 new oils for this process because all of the oils that I have, I use regularly for all sorts of things around my house. But for this technique, you want to make sure you're using oils that you're not using for other purposes. All my oils I use all the time for cleaning and, blah, 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 make my house smell good. All that fun stuff. So I'm actually going to be putting in my own order. I'm not sure when, maybe sometime next week. So leave me a comment, shoot me a message if you want help picking out some oils if you want to do this technique with me. Or if you want to order some and you want me to put your order in when I do mine sometime next week. That way you can do this with me. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will see you next time. Bye.